Okay, let's get started. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be on the webinar today. My name is Miho Mizawa, and I'm the project manager for Thank You Ocean. We're really excited to share with you our newly developed Ocean Communicators Alliance Docent Training Handbook. But before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this is being recorded and will be available online on our thankyouocean.org website. And we'll also send you a follow-up email with the link and the training handbook, as well as a poll that we're hoping that you will help fill out for evaluation purposes. Also, you're currently all on mute, but there will be a question and answer session after the presentation. I wanted to start off with giving a special thanks to the Coastal Commission's Whaletail Program for supporting this project, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation, and the Otter Project for their help providing resources and reviewing the handbook. During this presentation, I plan to give a little background about who we are and why we're doing this, followed by how we envision these handbooks being used and what's in it. This presentation will last about 30 minutes, and we'll have time for question and answer. So who are the Ocean Communicators Alliance members? So this is a group of more than 300 professionals in ocean-related organizations, agencies, and businesses who in the course of their work reach millions of Californians with ocean messages. Over the past year or so, the OCA held 4 marine protected area communication workshops focused on MPA messaging. These are included in the handbook, and I will get to those messages a little later. The feedback we kept receiving during these workshops were a need for docent training handbooks. Many organizations have excellent docent and naturalist programs, but do not have the capacity or the resource to create materials such as this. The Ocean Communicators Alliance also supports the Thank You Ocean campaign. This is a public awareness campaign through a partnership with the state, with the NOAA Office of National Marine Sanctuary, and the state of California. The Ocean Communicators Alliance helps with the Thank You Ocean campaign by disseminating Thank You Ocean resources and working with Thank You Ocean to develop content such as this. Marine protected areas have been a focus for Thank You Ocean, so we're really excited to be able to produce something like this. So getting back to these training handbooks, we believe docents and naturalists play a critical role in helping to increase stewardship and educate the public on the importance of California's coast and ocean. Docents are usually on the forefront interacting with the public, and we thought that it's really important that they have access to MPA resources so they feel comfortable and confident talking about this subject matter. So these docent training handbooks, it's a series of 4 MPA docent training handbooks, and they mirror the Marine Life Protection Act study region. So the Central Coast Region 1 is the first of a series of 4. It's intended to be a concise resource for docents and naturalists and those who run marine protected area programs. So the docent training program, the docent training manual right now is about 15 pages, and we've really tried to keep it concise to distill the most pertinent information regarding MPAs. It can act as a standalone document or a chapter within an organization's existing docent training handbook. For those who already have a robust training program, the feedback that we've been receiving is that they plan on using it as a supplemental material for their training program. The idea is to not print out hard copies, but provide the handbook online so that as new information is made available, and resources are developed, this handbook may be updated. For example, we're currently working to include tribal information, and so once that's developed, we will probably go back in the Central Coast Handbook to update that. We hope that folks will use these handbooks to fit their own organization and individual needs. What is in it? The most pertinent information about MPAs with an emphasis on the Central Coast is what is currently in the Docent Training Handbooks. We broke the handbook down into two major sections. First being a bigger picture where we talk about MPAs, what they are, the importance of them, federal versus state marine protected areas, California's network of MPAs, and how they came to be and how they're currently being managed. The second focus is more on the Central Coast region, which we focus on what you might find within these marine protected areas, species that directly benefit from MPAs, what changes are we seeing, as well as ocean etiquette and guidelines for viewing wildlife, how to get more involved in your local MPAs, and links to additional resources. Getting back to the basics and what we're talking about today, marine protected areas, or MPAs, are places designated to help protect and restore marine life and habitats in the ocean. MPAs are among the most useful tools for helping protect the ocean, complementing other conservation efforts by providing a place for marine life to recover and thrive. Documented benefits of marine protected areas across the globe include higher abundance and larger size of fish, invertebrates, and plants, increased biodiversity, greater biomass of targeted fish species, and increased body size of animals. So in this image, you can see the difference between a protected and unprotected area. And it's pretty obvious that within a marine protected area, you're going to have an increased amount of wildlife. The habitat looks healthier than compared to an area that's not protected. In general, marine protected areas are making a positive impact to the wildlife and the environment in California and provide natural classrooms, cherished recreational spots, and opportunities for exploration. These handbooks include a section that describes the difference between federal and state marine protected areas. Over the past century, more than 1,700 MPAs have been created in U.S. waters by a mix of federal, state, and local legislation, voter initiatives, and regulations for fishery management, conservation, and cultural heritage purposes. For example, there are 14 national marine sanctuaries that encompass more than 170,000 square miles of marine and Great Lake waters from Washington State to the Florida Keys and Lake Huron to the American Samoa. In California, there are both federal and state marine protected areas. Within California waters, there are 4 national marine sanctuaries, which include the Channel Islands, Cordell Bank, Gulf of the Farallones, and Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuaries. These federal MPAs share boundaries with several state MPAs and have different regulations. In the Central Coast region, there are multiple national marine sanctuaries that overlap with current state marine protected areas, and so I think it's good for docents to know that if you are working in a marine protected area that overlaps with a sanctuary, it's a fun fact and a great way to get visitors to learn about a different marine protected area system. California's network has 124 marine protected areas, covering approximately 16% of all coastal state waters. To account for regional differences, the state created 5 distinct MPA regions along the 1,100-mile coastline from south to north. The 5 regions include the South Coast, from Point Conception to the California-Mexico border, the Central Coast, from Pigeon Point to Point Conception, The San Francisco Bay, Golden Gate Bridge northeast to the Carquinez Bridge, which is currently on hold. The North Central Coast, which is Alder Creek near Point Arena to Pigeon Point, and the North Coast from the California-Oregon border to Alder Creek near Point Arena. The Marine Life Protection Act, which is the law that directed the state to redesign the existing MPA network, was enacted in 1999 and completed in 2012. And this was designed through a collaborative public process. In each of the regions, a group of local, knowledgeable stakeholders worked together using science guidelines to map out protected areas for each region. These stakeholders included commercial and recreational anglers, tribal and government representatives, educators, researchers, and conservationists. We think it's important for docents to know the general process because it's so unique, but to not get bogged down by it when talking about marine protected areas unless people are really interested in the process. Sorry about that. At this point, I'm going to start talking in more detail about what's in the Central Coast specific section of the handbook. So for folks that are a little less familiar with the Central Coast region, it's between Pigeon Point in the north and Point Conception in the south. And it was the first of 5 regions to undergo the MPA site selection process. In 2007, California established a network of 29 MPAs. Today, 18% of state waters in this region are protected by marine protected areas, with 7.5% being no-take state marine reserves. Included are 13 marine reserves, 14 marine conservation areas, 1 marine park, and 1 state marine recreational management area. In the handbook, talks in more detail about which MPA designation means and what you can and can't do. But for the webinar today, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. The Central Coast region's MPA network includes some of the most beloved and key sections of our coast, including pristine kelp forests of Point Lobos, the winding waterways of Elk Slough, the tide pools and natural bridges, the elephant seal Recreatus blancus, and the deep ocean habitat of Sokol Canyon. California's Central Coast waters host diverse habitats from rocky tide pools to the continental shelf and slope to large submarine canyons that reach close to shore. Because of these rich habitats, the Central Coast of California's waters are home to 26 species of marine mammals, 94 species of seabirds, 345 species of fish, 4 species of sea turtles, thousands of species of inverts, and more than 400 species of marine algae. Within the Central Coast region, there are certain species that are directly benefiting from marine protected areas. This handbook includes a short list of species that are benefiting, such as black abalone, ring cod, northern elephant seal, rockfish, giant kelp, owl limpet, and the southern sea otter. For each species, we included fun facts in a picture, and the idea behind this was docents could print this 2-pager out and take it along with them and point to the different pictures of what each species is. And then with the fun fact, they could tell visitors and get them more engaged. As I mentioned, the Central Coast was the first region to be established in 2007. And although 7 years is a short period of time to detect any recovery of marine populations, unmistakable changes within MPAs are expected within the coming decades. Short-lived species may show benefits sooner from protection within MPAs, but many slow-growing species, such as rockfish, need more than a few years to show signs of recovery. Key findings from the first 5 years of monitoring indicate that the Central Coast MPAs seem to be on track. So these are a few examples that are included in the handbook, in kelp forests and on nearshore reefs a range of economically important fish species, such as lingcod, cabezon, and black rockfish, have higher abundance in MPAs compared to reference areas. Another example is owl limpets increased in size between 2007 and 2011, with the greatest increases inside MPAs, suggesting protection from fishing pressure. In addition, fishing remains an integral part of the Central Coast ocean economy. Monitoring results show limited effects of MPAs on the fishing industry. This chart on the right shows the changes in biomass of mature adult fish within kelp forests in the Central Coast between 2007 and 2011. As you can see, some fish species such as black rockfish, cabezon, and lingcod are increasing in abundance. Another key section in this handbook is communicating about marine protected areas. We include a few tips that Resources Media, a PR firm that's been intimately involved with communicating about marine protected areas throughout the MPA site selection process, has come up with, and they've conducted polls and tested these tips and find these really effective when communicating about MPAs. So the first tip is to avoid abbreviations like MPAs when you first start talking about the issue. Instead, say marine protected areas. So in this case, I've been switching between MPAs and marine protected areas because I think that most of you folks know the abbreviation of MPA, but when your docents are talking to individuals in an MPA and not as familiar, I think it's important to say marine protected area. You want to lead with local examples of protected areas or volunteer programs. The docents and naturalists, you know, you are the ones that are intimately engaged with these marine protected areas. You know the unique features, and I think that it's important to communicate that information about what makes it unique, why you love this place so much, and I think it resonates really well with visitors. Another one is to focus on the outcome rather than the planning process. Don't talk about the administrative process, rather emphasize that California's marine protected areas are designed by local citizens and highlight the results. These MPAs are safe havens for sea life and wonderful places for ocean enthusiasts to experience nature. The fourth tip is put people in the picture. Although MPAs benefit marine wildlife and their surrounding habitat, it's also important to note that they are not the only ones benefiting. Fishermen enjoy more bountiful catches, coastal businesses may see a boost in tourism, and tide poolers and naturalists may see more wildlife. And the last one is talking about 4 key messages. These key messages came out of a collaborative working group made up of NGOs and aquaria in the South Coast. And they've been working well up and down the coast. And these 4 key messages were also used as a springboard for these OCA MPA workshops that were held last year. Oops, wrong way. So the first of the 4 key messages is fertile old female fish. This message creates a great visual and helps people understand that marine protected areas provide a place where some species of ocean life can feed, breed, and thrive. Certain species of big, old, fertile female fish benefit from MPA protection. So as you can see in this illustration, as female fish get older and grow bigger, they exponentially produce more young. Another message is making MPAs analogous to underwater parks to help people better understand the concept of MPAs. And it's a good way to start the conversation to say MPAs are like the parks that people visit and enjoy on land. The third key message is what about me? Putting yourself within an MPA and really focusing on things that you can do seem to resonate really well with people. So MPAs are open for exploration. You can swim, dive, tide pool, kayak, and watch birds and mammals. And in certain marine protected areas, you can even go spearfishing. And the last key message is about legacy. Marine protected areas ensure kids and grandkids can enjoy a healthy, productive ocean. And there's two additional messages that Resource Media recently came out with, and they've been working really well up and down the coast as well. The first one being California Pride. So California is leading the nation in ocean protection through the adoption of the nation's biggest network of scientifically based marine protected areas. And along with California Pride, I do believe that there is local pride starting to grow. These county collaboratives, which bring a diverse range of stakeholders, are working really hard to bring marine protected areas to the forefront of their communities. And so as a docent, I think that talking about your favorite marine protected area and why it's so great just fosters more of that community pride as well as California pride in these marine protected areas. And the last one is talking about prosperity. Our coastal ocean supports a $39 billion economy, and 75% of ocean-related jobs are in tourism and recreation. Protecting ocean hotspots is a smart investment that will pay major dividends in the coming year. During the OCA, the Ocean Communicators Alliance, MPA Communication Workshop in the Central Coast region, members of the Ocean Communicators Alliance and also attendees came up with short, pithy messages directed at specific audience groups. Depending on one's audience, the messaging may change as some topics resonate better than others. So feel free to try to use them, and we're always interested in how they're working and how you fine-tune them further. So for example, ocean-related business, the one that makes most sense and resonates the best would be prosperity. And so we talked about sustaining the ocean, sustains our business. So a really quick, direct message that gets to the heart of why MPAs are important is the goal of these messages. Included in the handbook, there's also a section on ocean etiquette and guidelines when viewing wildlife. And these are stewardship principles intended to help inform the public about safe and responsible wildlife viewing practices. Sharing these guidelines will help make sure wildlife stays safe while enhancing the visitor's experience. The ocean etiquette guidelines, we touched upon 5 main ones, which include look in the right place at the right time, hands off, keep your distance, follow good tide pooler rules, and help others to become responsible wildlife watchers. And within each of these 5, there's a little bit more information in the handbook describing what exactly that means. For example, helping others to become responsible wildlife watchers, it goes into how you would approach someone who is not being responsible, and it also includes the CalTIP number. Another section includes a short list of additional MPA-related projects and activities around the Central Coast. This isn't a comprehensive list, but you can get more ideas by visiting the CaliforniaMPAs.org website. To highlight a few projects that some of you may already be involved with include the MPA Watch program through the Otter Project. So they train volunteers to monitor resource use in and around MPAs from Año Nuevo State Park to Point Buchon and San Luis Obispo. Volunteers identify onshore and offshore ocean activities and collect data on resource use. Another fun project that is coordinated by the Underwater Parks Ambassadors is called Hunt for Hidden Treasure in California's Central Coast MPAs. And this is a geocaching program along the Central Coast MPAs. To those that aren't as familiar with geocaching, it's a real-world treasure hunting game using GPS or global position system. and allows people of all ages to explore the coastline in search of cache boxes and the treasures within. Each geocache box contains information about MPAs, a logbook to sign your name, and fish magnets that are free for the taking. In this handbook, there's a list of the MPA sites that have geocaching. And finally, we have additional resources and information. Because we wanted to keep these handbooks concise, we provided links to additional information about each section. The links vary from education and outreach materials to scientific articles. Again, this isn't a comprehensive list of resources, and we encourage you to explore the following websites for additional information, which is the Department of Fish and Wildlife website on marine protected areas, and then the compiled educational resource website, which is californiampas.org. But this section does include one-pagers of specific marine protected areas that Ocean Conservancy developed, and it's also translated in Spanish. So for docents that work within a particular MPA, it might be a good idea to print some of these out and use it as a resource. That concludes the overview of the handbook, and I've included the link to it right there, the thankyocean.org/Ocean Communicators Alliance /toolkit. I'll also send an electronic version directly to you along with the survey. At this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions or comments. Thanks. So feel free to type in the chat dialogue if you have any questions. And it looks like the Cabrillo Aquarium asked when the South Coast handbook is going to come out, which is a great question. So for the other three regions, we aim to get these out sometime at the end of the year. And for each of these handbooks, there will be also a webinar afterwards to train the docents and the project managers for these MPA programs. Another question I got is where to find this resource. Along with this link, I can show you very quickly. I can move this over. Move it all the way over. So this is the Thank You Ocean website. And if you go to Ocean Communicators Alliance Toolkit, you can scroll all the way down and also take a look at our great Thank You Ocean resources, and feel free to download them and use them. The OCA Newsflash is another great way that Ocean Communicators Alliance members get word out about their events. And here is the landing for the Central Coast OCA Docent Training Handbook. So you can click on that and it will be available. And then the workshop report is also available right there. So that's that. Another question I received was about the number of species is different than the number of species that the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary says. The number that I got was from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, so I will definitely double check with them and see where they got their numbers and why it's different than the sanctuaries. And then, let's see, another question that I got was about updating the handbook. The idea for the handbook is, as new information is developed, that it would be posted online, and then we would also email it out to OCA members. That's a great question. Anyone else? Great. So I think that this is the end of the webinar. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen in on it. And you will get an email from me shortly with the handbook, as well as a link to an exit poll. And if you could fill that out, it would be greatly appreciated. So thanks so much, and take care. Bye.